Hey guys, just a quick note before the video starts. As you will probably notice, this is a re-upload of an old video. I don't know which one it is because I'm leaving this same tag in front of all of them. As you guys know, I've just recently started the FLIX FIX series with Kristen, and that's going to be the umbrella that we put all the movie reviews under. So in the meantime, I've gone back in the history of this channel to pull out all the old movie reviews that we have done. Now, obviously, they were done at that time. Any references may be a little bit out of date. They will be very obviously done at the time that those movies were relevant, but I've tidied them up a little bit. I've edited them up a little bit. I've tried to make the sound a little bit better because on a couple of them, the sound was really bad. I hope you enjoy. Please excuse the fact that they may be incredibly out of date, and hopefully something new will come along very soon. Enjoy the video, guys.
What's going on,
So I
everybody?
guess I gotta do an in.
Okay.
Nope, fuck it. You do it.
Yeah, well, we're already recording, so there's our entrance. There's our
No,
introduction.
that's not our entrance. Do it again.
It's totally our entrance. What's going on, everybody? I'm Spaz Phoenix. I'm sitting here with Kristen. Say hello, Kristen.
Hey, what's up, guys?
And for those of you that are subscribed to this channel, which is probably most of the first few people that are going to see it, this isn't a wrestling video. We're here to do what Kristen and I did a couple years ago. We're going to talk to you about some movies. We're going to talk to you specifically about some Marvel movies, and we are going to talk to you about Black Panther.
Yay!
Because I saw it yesterday, and I think you saw it yesterday, and you messaged me.
I did see it yesterday.
And you messaged me, like, today, like, are we doing this or not? Because we both love the movie. So, yeah, here we are. I have precisely, like, 0.001% notes. You have a breakdown of the entire story, so you're going to be helping us out structurally.
Yes.
And I know we're gonna do it. We're gonna sort of walk people through. This is a giant spoiler, by the way, for anybody that hasn't
Humongous. Huge.
We're literally going to talk about the whole
spoiler.
movie. So if you haven't seen the movie,
Wait.
we're giving you to a count of 5 to, like, turn this shit off now and come back to it later. 5.
And also, if you
4,
haven't seen the movie yet, what
3,
the fuck is wrong with you?
2,
Go.
1. There's your spoiler buffer.
If you haven't seen the movie yet, what the fuck? Go stop listening to this podcast and go watch this movie because it's amazing.
Yes, don't listen to all the people arguing over political bullshit leading into this movie, and go enjoy the fucking movie for the sake of enjoying a fucking movie. I had it in my head. I was doing a 50-50 whether I was going to talk about all the political bullshit spiraling around this movie. I'm not going to do it. I've made the conscious decision that I'm not going to do it. Kristen and I are
There's no political. It's made up political bullshit.
Oh, there is.
There's
I
nothing
made
political about this movie. Well, there is.
There's a lot.
There is
Okay,
social commentary.
there's potentially a lot politically wrong, or inspired in this movie that we can talk about in that regard. But as far as everybody wanting to find a reason to be angry, and everybody on every side being a fucking retard, I may do a separate sort of rant video on that. People that know sort of what makes me tick on certain issues will probably be able to pick out what I'm going to talk about really quickly. But I'm not going to bog down this particular video because Kristen and I have a lot more positivity to talk about this movie than that. How does that sound?
Yay!
I know we're going to go through the entire timeline of the movie, but Kristen, first reaction to the movie in general.
In general, like after leaving it, I loved this movie so much. I was having a hard time finding criticisms for it, and there's a few nitpicks that I was able to find initially leaving the theater. But it's like the nitpicks don't even
they don't matter.
Like
it's one of those like it was fine. They could have done something a little more amped up here or there, or this was really good. If they had done just this much more, it would have been fucking spectacular. Like that's the worst criticism you're gonna get from me. And like
when you're asking for more of a movie, like I felt like it should have been like this much more. Like when you're asking for more of it, I don't find that to be that big of a criticism.
It's not. It's just well, ultimately it means the movie's done a good job of inspiring you to take the thought farther. If all you're doing is, hey, this is good, it could have been great, then the movie has like stimulated something in your brain, which is a good thing at the end of the day.
Exactly.
And I mean,
exactly.
we're going to talk a little bit about Marvel timeline later, but we're like, what, 16, 17 something movies in to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, not including the Netflix shows and the television shows that are tied into it. There are some things that are going to drag. There are some things by this point that are supposed to drag. So if that is your nitpick, then you're a fucking moron that hasn't really been paying attention. But no.
I totally agree. The things I loved almost everything about this movie, and I walked away. One of the biggest things that I loved about this movie is, not just the movie in general, but also the aesthetic of the movie and how everything, even dumb shit like I'm going a little further into the movie, but the ships that they use to mine the vibranium, look like dragonflies.
Yep.
Like they have the separate wings and stuff, which would be a thing in African culture, would be depicted amongst their art and stuff. So even their ships are culturally fitting into that society.
It's something that would logically come from a place that has been evolving as their technology has evolved. Because the whole idea is they're going back in history to talk about their history, but their technology has existed for so long that technology is part of their history. And I'm not going to lie, for me that was one thing that I was really sort of sitting back and wondering, how are they going to play that off? Because it is a place, this fictional place, Wakanda, is a place that is, on the one hand, so steeped in tradition. They still have a sense of royalty. They still have a sense of, lineage. The king dies, the son becomes king. All that sort of Shakespearean type stuff. But so much of their identity is steeped in technology as well. I was really not looking for them to fail, but I was really trying to see, how they would mold the, old school, super traditional, super ancestral element with the tech element. And I think they nailed it out of the park, personally.
I mean, let's just talk about it. I'm still, as we're talking, looking for, I found people's, fucking review of it. There we go, plot summary.
There you go. One more question before we start the plot summary. One thing I do want to say that Marvel hit on the head with this, that you cannot say about all the Marvel movies. We love the continuous universe. We love the fact that, everything we watch is connected to something else. It's one big, long story, starting with Iron Man 1. Infinity War, that we're going to talk about later, is the 10-year anniversary of that one continuous story. But I do feel if somebody's not following the entire Marvel continuous universe, they could still sit down and watch this movie and not feel like they're missing much. And that
I absolutely agree.
And I find less and less Marvel movies have that element to them.
This movie to me felt a lot like the beginning Marvel movies, like Iron Man 1, Captain America 1, Thor 1, and you can say what you will about those beginning movies, but it felt like one of those where it wasn't bogged down by all of the other Marvel Cinematic Universe stuff. It didn't feel like it had to address all of that shit. Essentially, the only thing we have addressing that stuff is King T'Chaka dying in Civil War.
Right. And I mean, realistically, you could think back to a lot of not King Arthur itself, but you could think of a lot of any movies based in royalty and lineage and medieval type of ideas. You could have a movie that starts with the king, that just starts with the news that the king has died and the son is about to take over, and you just follow the son all the way through. And that could be a movie on its own. And on that note, obviously for us that saw Civil War and we know where that's coming from, it's a little bit extra for us. But I don't think with a start like that you miss anything if this is for some reason, this is your first Marvel movie.
And as we move on with this summary of the movie, bear with me because I might butcher a lot of these names.
Oh my god, yes.
Straight up butcher. I apologize for that ahead of time. but I will straight up butcher anybody's name that isn't like Suri or T'Challa.
T'Challa, T'Chaka, Oyoke, fucking, what's her name? Totally separate bias note on my part. I don't know if you watched The Walking Dead.
Yes.
Yes. So we know Denai Guerrera, being one of the female soldiers in the Dora Milaje, was an excellent get for Marvel. And
yes.
Fucking tell me, like, okay, unless she's going to go back to Walking Dead and start playing Michonne again, which she's going to do in a couple weeks, tell me a role like this isn't made for somebody like Denai Guerrera.
She does better in this role than her role on The Walking Dead, because
really?
You know, she can just stand there. She has this presence in the movie without talking all that much.
Right.
Just has this presence and this like look in her eyes of I'm a fucking badass.
Mm-hmm.
I will not hesitate to fucking kick the shit out of you.
And I will say
that
like, she's such a badass. She's such a badass in
Right.
this movie that she has her like small little breakdown moment that we're going to talk about later on, and it doesn't even put a scratch on the image that she portrays during the rest of the movie.
Exactly.
It doesn't like if you're such a badass that you can have a breakdown and come back and like it doesn't even feel like you've slipped. That's a testament to that character.
And we got to see a little bit of this type of her character in Civil War, just like a little taste of it.
Oh, the little standoff that she does?
Yes, where she comes up to fucking Natasha Romanoff, who, you know, is the staple badass female within the Marvel Cinematic Universe at that time, and doesn't even blink an eye and essentially tells her, move or you will be moved.
And what's his line? Is as entertaining as that would be.
Yes.
Okay, I shouldn't do accents. Let's just agree on that right now.
You should not. You should not do accents.
I'm going to be Black Panther for Halloween next year and see how many people get triggered.
My nephew was Black Panther for Halloween this year. By the way, he's 8, so let's not everybody freak out. But the idea that I mean, my nephew just sees Black Panther. He's never seen him without the helmet on. He reads them and reads about him in like comic books and like in like kids books and whatever. So all you see him is in the suit. He doesn't know he's a black guy. He doesn't really even care. He just thinks like, here's a cool guy that fucking can fight with Captain America and
let's be real, like, you shouldn't care.
No, you shouldn't.
Let's be real. There are a lot of like cultural like differences type issues that were handled in the movie, and this is another thing I love. I know we're sort of going all over the map, and I said I wasn't going to get into the political bullshit, but I got to applaud.
And here we go.
No, but I have to. No, I'm going to turn it into something positive. Like with all the stuff you hear people saying around the movie, they do address issues of race, issues of inequality, issues of mistreatment of certain people, and rah. But they do it in such a way that they kind of like land on the issue and then leave it alone. Land on the issue and then leave it alone. And it doesn't bog down the movie. And I think that's fucking fantastic. And I think the real world could learn something from that.
Well, shall we get started into the movie?
You want to get into your plot summary, don't you?
I do, because I finally found one.
All right.
That wasn't just like, here's what I thought of the movie.
Well, that's basically what we're doing.
Exactly, but I need a, like, almost scene by scene, but not really. The movie starts out with a basic back overview of how Wakanda became a nation to begin with. Meteorite of vibranium hits the earth. These 5 tribes come together to try and protect it, and it helps their civilization advance. But they hide it so that people won't come and steal vibranium and use it for evil purposes, that kind of thing.
Yeah. I love the graphic presentation of that too, because it's not like a flashback, which is sort of cliche. It's not like a series of photos that would be kind of cliche. It's not like Disney taking a stab at doing like tribal writing on the wall or tribal images on a wall, which would be kind of cliche. They sort of do that imagery that pops right up out of the sand. And somebody says, quick shout out, they don't know who the hell I am, but if you want to see more professional reviews, go check out 2 accounts. One is called New Rockstars, which I just started watching, and one that I plug a lot is I can't think of the guy's name, but the channel is Emergency Awesome, and both of them sort of mention the fact that it kind of looks like the imaging plate in the in the second Guardians when Star-Lord's dad is trying to explain to him like how everything happened, how he came to be, and it looks very plastic, looks very mannequin-y. Well, this is like that, but except it looks like it comes right up out of the sand. So graphically, I don't want to get too nerdy on this, and I want to be able to sit back and say it looks fucking badass. But like graphically, as far as a presentation, I thought that was kind of cool because, as I say, it pulled away from the typical ideas of like, here's a few quick photos, here's a few quick drawings, here's like a short little like 2-minute video package. That would be good, that they probably would have thrown together great, but it made it stand out from other movies that would have gone a more generic route.
I agree. Like I said, I mean, that's just part of the aesthetic that I really liked in this movie, all in all. Let's see. Then after the brief like backstory of Wakanda, it brings us to 1992 in Oakland, California, and we see these 2 guys in an apartment, and then King T'Chaka with his guard come to this apartment, and you find out that one of the guys is his brother, Prince Najumbu. I told you I'm gonna butcher these names. Oh, it's so bad.
T'Chaka's brother.
T'Chaka's brother, the Prince. T'Chaka accuses him of helping Ulysses Claw from the Age of Ultron to steal vibranium from Wakanda. The brother denies it, and then it turns out that the other guy that's in the room is also a Wakandan spy who's been keeping tabs on him. So he was just kind of asking him to fess up, and he didn't fess up, and he tries to kill T'Chaka, and T'Chaka ends up having to kill him. We
don't see that at the beginning though. We see that in the second playing of the flashback later on.
Yes, we see that.
At the beginning, you think it's the fact that he's been caught, he's going to come back and pay for his crimes, and then they kind of cut the scene. You see a later version of the flashback later on, and I think not giving us the whole story and sort of letting us realize the whole story as the characters realize the whole story. Another great, like, it's a little tiny detail. It wouldn't have changed things that much, but just, we're going on the ride sort of with T'Challa. So for our sake as the audience to find out things the same time he's finding out things makes a lot more sense.
I totally agree with that. I'm still just gushing over this movie. Yep. But it then forwards to present time after the death of King T'Chaka in Civil War. T'Challa comes back to Wakanda, he's on a mission to go. They say to pick somebody up. They go and pick up his ex-girlfriend, who is an undercover spy for Wakanda.
Can I just say, when they introduce him on the ship, and he's talking, I think he's talking to Okoye, the Denai Guerrero's character.
Yes.
And she basically looks like she's driving the ship by meditating. Mm-hmm. Like, and she's got all kinds of like light fixture type things around her hands, but basically she looks like she's, for the wrestling fans out there, sort of like taking the old school CM Punk pose and sort of meditating, and that's how she's driving the ship. And she's, kind of barbing with T'Challa a little bit. Like, you can tell they're close and whatnot. And they're having, like, the most relaxed conversation ever. And then it's like, okay, ready? And then the floor just drops out. And you see him free-falling from the ship to where the attack is happening.
Exactly.
It's just another day in the life.
I want to talk about their relationship a little bit, because we were saying, you know, she just comes off as this big, badass character, but she's not just that. You can see that they've added a little bit of humor. Like, she's a real fucking fully fledged out character within the movie. She's funny, she's strong, she's loyal, like, she's a fully fledged character. Like, she tells him, don't freeze.
Right. I will say,
as soon as he sees the X, he fucking freezes.
And this is coming from me, and everybody thinks I'm a jackass and whatever. I will say all four of the main female characters in this movie are fucking amazing. Like, from
this movie, more than any other Marvel movie right now, I believe. No, I'm not. Has more badass women than any of the other Marvel movies.
Keep in mind, we are in a year or so getting Captain Marvel, which is basically going to be their version of Wonder Woman. But yeah, up until this point, you're absolutely right. I mean, let's be real. Scarlett Johansson's character is fucking amazing, but they don't really shy away from the fact that she's a fucking bombshell too.
Exactly.
But I will say, from Shuri, who we're going to talk about later, to Okoye, to Nakia, who's his ex-girlfriend that he goes and saves on this mission, whatever, to his mother.
I don't think he actually saves her. She's on a mission, and they have to go and pick her up because he wants her to be at his coronation. Like, she's not in any danger. Like, she's totally got fucking things handled.
Fair. But I'm just saying, like, from the girlfriend to the sister to the leader of the Dormelage to his mother, whose name I cannot recall, all four...
I don't know that they ever give his mother a name. I'll look forward and see.
I'm sure she has a name. I just can't... I don't think it was made a point of. But
Ramonda is her name.
There we go. So Ramonda, Okoye, Shuri, and... now I can't think of the girlfriend's name.
Nikita.
Nikita. We're going to butcher these names, folks. We mentioned that from the beginning. But I will say, and this is one thing that I've heard people say about the T'Challa character, and I'm not saying it's necessarily a bad thing. There is a slight one-dimensionalness to his character because he does carry himself very, royal and regal and chest puffed out, but like not in a bad way, just in a very serious, I have everything handled kind of way. And you get that with
that was the criticism I've heard, one of the few criticism I've heard the most, that because you're trying to make all these other characters, he kind of suffers a little bit.
But I don't think he suffers because he's the only character that we already knew. So
yes.
They didn't flush him out as much, but they didn't need to.
They didn't need to flush him out. They needed him to bounce all these other characters off because, like you just said, we know him already, and so based on what we know of him and how he interacts with these characters, we're able to know about them and about the world.
Exactly. And I think, and as I said, they don't have to flush him out because unless, like we've said, this is your first Marvel movie, in which case, yes, it would kind of throw you off a little bit. But I mean, you've got these four badass female characters. You got T'Challa, you got these four badass female characters around him, and then you've got everybody else sort of existing on the rim. But, and I say this with a smile, and I'm not saying this as any kind of bad thing, they do bust his balls through the whole movie.
Oh, yeah.
His kid sister busts his balls, his ex busts his balls. You can tell him and Denai Guerrera's character have a mutual respect, sort of similar to a sibling in Service of the Throne. They have that in common, even though he's on the throne and she serves the throne. They have that sibling-esque sort of relationship, but they do bust his balls through the entire movie, something rotten. It makes me laugh. It's not one of those, okay, bitches being bitches, nothing like that, but it is pretty strong throughout the movie.
While we're in this scene, I would like to, say the one nitpick that I found as I left the theater, and it's barely a thing. The one nitpick I have is with, Nakia's character, and I love her, and she's a badass and everything, but she does have this, this aura of, well, everybody gets a fucking love interest, so we'll just put this chick in, we'll make her a badass and everything. But, everybody gets a love interest, so.
But I think it works in this case, like, psychologically. Okay, there's the old adage of, like, tell a kid that they can't have a cookie, they're going to want the cookie more, right? And I think for her being somebody that is, like, loyal to her country and whatever, but she wants to help her country from the outside. She wants to go out and explore. She wants to go out and, we're going to talk about this later on, I'm sure. But, like, she wants to outreach to other countries. She wants Wakanda as a whole to help other countries. She wants to be able to personally go out and help, people that are in trouble, people in, like, downtrodden areas and whatever. The fact that she wants to be outside of Wakanda, I gotta believe, in my head, and this is only a theory, the fact that they're broken up, the fact that they're split up, the fact that she's going so far away is what contributes to her relationship with T'Challa and him wanting to, like, pull her back because he knows how important she is to him, also to the country. She's an asset to the country. She's an asset to, their way of life and whatever. But it's not all selfless because, here's somebody that I cared about, either currently or formerly did care about quite a bit. The farther they want to go away, the more I want to pull them close. So, as far as, like, let's just throw the main character a girlfriend, I think it's cool, but I think...
No, she definitely isn't just a girlfriend. She just kind of, like, if she was just, like, a child, like, I believe if she... Because the only, like, love interest thing they ever have is the two scenes where they're at the market, one at the beginning and one at the end of the movie. And, the rest of it, if you made her just, like, his longtime childhood friend or something like that, I feel like it doesn't change the story at all.
I think the dynamic of, like, him as a person wanting her there because he cares about her, and him as a king knowing what an asset she is to the country, like, those two ideas running side by side is, I think, what changes that dynamic a little bit. Because I think it's kind of cool to say, like, both halves of him want him there. Like, you have like the person and the king, or, like, the person and the fighter. Like, she could be a fighter. Like, if he's the fighter, he wants that person on his team. If he's the king, he wants that person in his country, helping his country be better. If he's just a person, he wants her because maybe they never should have broken up, and it's sad, and it tugs at his heartstrings, but, like...
Like I said, it was a hard criticism for me to find.
And I think she fits in well with it, like, sort of in between... Like, not quite as badass as Denai Guerrera's character, but, like, when you look at somebody like Shuri, who spends most of her time in sort of, like, the development area, the tech area, you get the idea that she doesn't see battle as much. She helps the people that are battling. I think Nakia is a good, happy medium between the two as far as her place in the war, I guess you could say, even though it's not a war, but I think she's a happy medium between the two.
Can we also talk about Shuri's character too?
Oh my god.
To me, she's the best character in the movie.
Oh fuck yeah.
She's the best character in the movie because she's like royalty, but she doesn't really act like it. She's the fun kid sister, but she's also like...
She's like the new king's bratty little sister.
Exactly, but...
Fuck you, I want to go back to the basement and play with my toys.
Yes, and... Like, she's essentially like if this were a James Bond movie, she'd be the guy making all the cool tech for James Bond. Like, she's that person.
But here's the ironic thing about it, though. Here's the ironic thing, if you think about it, though, because we know this is part of the greater Avengers universe or whatever. The King's little sister is the Tony Stark of this universe.
Yes.
Like, how cool is that? I've heard a creative rumor... And it's only a rumor, so take it with a big pinch of salt. Apparently, because we, spoiler, jump to the end a little bit, Wakanda decides to sort of share themselves and their knowledge and their wealth of tech with the world and whatever. Supposedly, she might be a big part of the next standalone Spider-Man movie. Which I think would
be interesting.
Like, to pair Shuri up with Peter Parker... Just as we see them in the cinematic universe, because as you know, I don't read the comics, so I go in fresh to every story. So just based on what I've seen, because she's sort of the Tony Stark of Wakanda, Spider-Man's sort of the Tony Stark protege, if they're going to make him a new tech suit, or maybe we've heard the rumor that, eventually he's going to get an Iron Spider suit, maybe vibranium Iron Spider suit?
Well, if you want to know a little background about her,
you will be my reference here.
What's interesting is in the Black Panther comics, T'Challa gets hurt at some point and is unable to fulfill his duties of being the Black Panther. She has a little comic book run where she's actually Black Panther for a little while.
Very cool.
Yes. So there's a little run of that. So she takes over the mantle of Black Panther for a little while for her brother while he is injured. Not related to her character specifically, but I'm sure a lot of people know there's a new version of Iron Man.
The Iron Heart
going around that. Yes,
the Iron Heart with the young high school girl that follows Tony Stark for a little bit. If they move Shuri over into that role rather than creating that role just from scratch, I won't object to it as much.
I think it would be a great fit for that, just to not have to make another character. I'm sure a lot of people, I would understand the argument that combining these two black female characters, young black female characters, is like,
Christ.
we
You really want me to go into the political shit, don't you?
No,
I'm not going to do it.
That's why I'm scared.
I'm not going to do it. But I mean, they already combined.
Over it.
Like, if you go back to something like Ragnarok, and I don't know the comics, so again, I'm only going by what I've heard. They combined to make Hela, what the hell's the actress's name that played Hela? Can't think of it now. Anyways, but to create Kate Blanchett, who did amazing, by the way. Let's just dip in on that for a second. But to create the Marvel Cinematic Universe Hela, apparently they combined the theology of the entity Death and the actual comic book character Hela. So it's not like Marvel hasn't changed people's origin stories anyway, and it makes a lot more sense, and it's a lot more logical to, you have this girl over here who is, like we've said already, basically like the Wakandan Tony Stark, to become, the next, not the next Iron Man. I would hope they would come up with something different. Personally, I think the name Ironheart is lame as fuck. That's just me. I'm sure it's I'm sure it's accurate to whatever comic book they're talking about, but they could come up with something better, is all I'm saying. But, if there was going to be, a next gen, and, Tony Stark, two proteges are better than one, you have a new Iron Woman, let's say, for example, Iron Woman and Iron Spider taking over the mantle of Iron Man once he, hangs up the helmet, or however you want to say it. It makes sense to already utilize the talent that you're familiar with and that and, Iron Man's already dealt with T'Challa. Obviously, he would have a built-in respect for the rest of his family. There would be that big welcoming arm. I can't see him welcoming in a total stranger, because you've had people in other Iron Man movies that have tried to duplicate his tech and become enemies. So for him to turn around and see somebody new that is doing basically the same thing to be embraced immediately is like, okay, Tony, you haven't learned from your previous mistakes. You went out and chose Spider-Man. You went out and teamed with, this person, this person, this person in Civil War. You already know T'Challa. It makes sense that you would trust his family more than a complete stranger. It might be a difference from the comic books, but from what the movies cinematically have given us already, it makes a fuck ton more sense.
I was just throwing that out there. I can understand the argument of.
I hope they do something like that with her. And I can't think of the actress's name that plays her, but she's fucking amazing. I hope they use her more. And
in this movie, like I said, she's the kid sister, but she's also a genius. She creates all the tech and everything, but just also kind of, they don't age her up. They don't make her she's super smart, and so we're gonna make her super mature. She's still very much young and useful, but also smart. For the fact that she's she gets her brother to test the new suit. She tells him to kick it, and it throws it, and she sasses him for and he's like, but you told me to kick it. And then she sets it back up, and then she
zaps
up a little
him.
video recorder.
And she zaps him.
She sets up a little video recorder to have him kick it again, and it like fucking throws him back, and she's like giggling, and he's yelling at her to delete that recording and everything.
But that's the thing though, like the whole like brother sister like he's yelling at her in one regard, but he's totally not yelling at her.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's great. And like, I'm sorry, like some of the tech that she creates is something that I think a kid would create. Because you've got an entire suit, basically, that says, oh, you're going to hit me, I'm going to hit you back. Like, that is the entire mentality behind his suit.
Well, and also the sneakers that she creates.
Oh my god, the sneakers. Bigger question, what are those? When he's got the fucking sandals.
Yes. Anyway,
that's the thing, though. Like, this movie is pretty heavy in a lot of ways, and it's pretty violent, and it's pretty sad in a lot of ways. But there's a lot of funny shit in this movie too. That's another balance that's really hard to strike, especially with something like this. Because you got something like this, it could be like a Michael Bay special where everything's just shiny and explodey and big bang boom, or you can have something that's a little heavier with some of the themes that they talked about in this movie, talking about, you know, militarizing certain minority people and whatever, which is, it's a real life thing, which hits harder. So you could have it be incredibly heavy, you could have it be incredibly, like, just relying on the tech aspect, but if you can throw in the humor and make people seem human as well, that's a hell of a balance to reach.
Well, since, you know, I just kind of want to go through and talk about the characters now. I know I spent all this time looking for this plot summary, but I think we should just go through each of the characters. Let's talk about Killmonger.
Oh my
arguably
God.
Arguably one of the best. Probably, I don't know if I would put, because people are going to yell at me if I put him above Loki, but I think Marvel is really bad about making super one-dimensional villains that are just like, I'm here to take over the world. And, you know, that is their motivation, and that's it, kind of thing.
I don't know that we need to compare him to Loki, because Loki kind of exists in a third category on his own. Loki's going to do what works for Loki, whether that means siding with the good guys, whether that means siding with the bad guys, whether that means siding with the neutral guys. Loki's in it for Loki, and I don't think, in the end, that makes him a bad guy. It makes him a realistic guy. He's looking at the entire universe and goes, okay, right now I fit there. So...
okay, well, if we're going to use that kind of category system, then he is the best Marvel villain to me, hands down.
Oh, for sure.
Because the best thing you can do with a villain is give them a motivation that you understand, that you get, that you sympathize with, but you clearly don't agree with the method they use to
get there.
To clear that motivation up, to fix that problem. His issue is the oppression of African Americans in general in the U.S., all over the world, and everything.
He's got a couple different issues that all kind of intertwine, right? Like he's obviously got the, like, I want to stick up for my race, I want to stick up for people of color, because it's not just black people. Like in general, like they, you know, when we say people of color, it's basically anybody that's not white. But I mean, there's some truth to that. So I don't want to sit here and say, oh, he's a black guy sticking up for black guys. He's a black guy sticking up for, like, people of color that are being mistreated and whatever. But tied in with that, he's also like, hey, Wakanda's kind of selfish. Like, they got shit going on in Wakanda that could help the whole fucking world. Like, not just, like, from negative things, but, like, make the positive things better. And on a personal note, he was orphaned by his country.
Know, not to mention that the king, his uncle kills his father.
Right.
And then totally leaves him abandoned to try and hide the fact that he did this and to keep Wakanda a secret.
Right. Yeah. And, sorry, I lost my train of thought there for a second. Any bad guy that you can agree with makes the audience uncomfortable, and when the audience is uncomfortable, they're more engaged. when you're watching like
and I don't know that his motivation makes me uncomfortable, but it's something I could like. It's something that we could all like agree with. Like, yes, this is a big issue,
right?
But the way you're trying to solve this issue is not okay.
Right? No, you don't. Like, I'm saying his motivations. No, you agree with his motivations, but at the same time, it's like, okay, this is going to sound so bad. So to everybody listening right now, I apologize. I think black people are mistreated, so I'm going to go kill all white people. So, like,
exactly.
So on the one hand, you want to say, yes, I think there's a lot of people of color that are mistreated. But in agreeing with that, I'm agreeing with some guy that wants to go kill an entire other group of people based on their color. And so I'm agreeing with somebody. I'm totally agreeing with somebody that's about to go do something terrible. That's the discomfort I'm talking about as a viewer. My example, and people are going to laugh, and that's fine. Killmonger makes me think of Jigsaw from the Saw series. Because the more... I don't know how many of the Saw movies you've seen. None. Okay. Well,
I don't like scary movies.
It's not scary. It's more gross than anything else. But the Saw movies, the reason I like the Saw movies, for anybody out there that has seen them, is they sort of overlap themselves. You watch the first one, and once you've seen the second one, you will never look at the first one the same way again. When you've seen the third one, you'll never see the first two the same way again, etc., etc., etc. And you never agree with what Jigsaw is doing, ever, throughout the entire thing, because you can't, because the things that he's doing are fucking grotesque. But the more you watch the movie, the more you understand why he's doing them, and the whole time you're watching the movie, you're like, why am I identifying with this guy that's doing these terrible things? So Jigsaw has kind of become like my template for a character like that, and Killmonger, as different a type of movie as it is, Killmonger fits that template to a T. And he's a sympathetic character. Like, I know I'm skipping to the end here, but when he dies, it's sad. Mm-hmm. When he dies,
it's not only sad, but it also he has like a powerful ending too. Yeah.
Well, his little ending speech
with his character. It totally fits in with his character's motivations and how this character, is placed in this world.
Right. And it gives you that last little bit of insight as to where he sees himself and what he sees himself as. Because there's a lot of guys, a lot of bad guys that just, I'm going to take over the world and I'm going to fucking run shit. And then there's characters, like I say, like Killmonger in this, like Jigsaw in my example, that 100% that they don't think they're wrong. That they think, obviously T'Challa wants to help his country, wants to help the world, whatever. Killmonger is doing the same thing. This is his version of I legitimately want to help the world. His methods are what splits the difference there. But he's not trying to grab up the world for himself. He's trying to fix the world in the way that he needs it to be fixed. So there's a selflessness to his villain character. And you can't, as much as you may want to, especially with some of the things that he does and people that he kills along the way, you can't 100% hate him for his motivations. And that's one of those, it's not a cut and dry bad guy. And I love that, because you can, anything like that you can debate is always fun.
Mm-hmm. A lot of people are talking about right now that Killmonger's character and Black Panther and T'Challa's character are very much, if you want to go within the Marvel universe, are very much like Professor X and Magneto, where they're both trying to kind of protect mutant kind. But, Magneto's doing it, and I mean, that even stems back to, those characters, Magneto and Professor X's motivations are rooted in the real world too. They're based off of like Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X, where one of them, they're both fighting for, their goal is the same thing. They just go about it radically different, whereas one is all about peaceful protests and restraint. The other one is all about anarchy and not violence, but
dominance.
Dominance kind of thing.
One of them is sort of like, I'm going to stick up for my people, which is totally understandable, and one of them is like, can't we all get along? which is, again,
Yes.
totally understand. Like, you've got two ideas, and neither one, okay, other than the militaristic element to it, which is, obviously, something to be frowned upon, but they're two ideals that you can't really point at either of them and say that they're necessarily bad on their face, which I love. Because a cut-and-dry bad guy is... It's good if you're trying to introduce characters, which, I mean, we were in this movie. Like, we were introducing all the people around T'Challa, but we already knew who T'Challa was, and we already know what his motivations were. We saw his dad die in the previous movie and whatever. So if it was strictly a rallying call, like a rallying, okay, hey, we're putting this team together, like this is the Wakandan Avengers, for example, and it was really based on him, like, pulling himself and one or two other dudes and the four other women that we talked about already, and really making his team a team, and the focus was on the building of the team, and just give us something over there to punch at, then we could do with a one-dimensional bad guy. But we weren't doing that. Like, we were giving him something to struggle with. We were giving him something in his own history that made him and his family and his father and where he came from not so perfect. So he was being knocked down a peg and then having to come back from that. So that's where you need that multi-dimensional character where you're not just going to be like, okay, no, you're trying to fuck some shit up, I'm going to beat the shit out of you. No, you're actually making me struggle with something, and you're actually going to test me, you're actually going to make me look at myself, which is a hell of a deeper story, which you would have had to have in a story that's based in some of the stuff that this story is based in.
I'm trying to think of any other characters I want to talk about.
I like Everett Ross. I really like Everett Ross.
Yeah.
I think
I didn't hate him, but what we had to do is you had to have, other than T'Challa, another character to kind of bring him in, all these people into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and have another person that we recognize.
I don't think we need
that.
I
mean,
think we
if Coulson was alive, this character would have been Phil Coulson.
Coulson is alive.
Quote, alive. Coulson is alive, but the rest of the Avengers don't know that still to this day.
I think he serves.
I'm trying to think.
Yeah, for the people that want to feel that continuity with the rest of the movies, yeah, then obviously Everett Ross fills that character. But I mean, what it does for me is sort of when they are in, I think, Hong Kong, and they've got the big chase. And
yes.
We're obviously going to talk about the big chase and all the cool shit that happened there. But when they get back to the police station, and he takes the bullet for Nakia, and he knows the only way they can fix him is to bring him back to Wakanda, that's sort of the first crack in T'Challa's mentality of, okay, we're Wakanda, we have to stay to ourselves, we have to hide ourselves, we have to be isolationist, nobody in, nobody out, we got to keep our world to itself. Agreeing to bring him back, and not only bring him to Wakanda, but use the Wakandan tech to save him, because he, takes a bullet right in the spine. But,
yes.
Not only to have him there, but to have him there for the purpose of helping him, for the purpose of, bringing him back and him not being paralyzed and exposing him to everything that Wakanda has to offer there. I think Everett Ross, metaphorically, and I'm going kind of deep cut here, he is sort of the first crack, the first realization of, hey, maybe we don't have to keep our turtle shell completely 100% all the time. And I think they needed that, because the only other person was Claw, and he died. So,
yeah, he was another character that brought in. I liked Claw a lot. He was wacky and everything, but he was definitely a way to bring Killmonger in without introducing this guy that nobody fucking knows, kind of thing.
Well, he served the purpose too. Like, he's an actual bad guy, whereas Killmonger.
Yes, he's the stereotypical villain.
He's the actual bad guy that doesn't care about the war, doesn't care about anything else. He's gonna back up Killmonger because, hey, vibranium. That vibranium dope.
Yeah.
And I think for the purpose of, having an actual bad guy that's done actual bad things, and, I mean, his death more than anything else puts the rift between T'Challa and the other fella that I can't remember his name, the guy that was, farming the rhinos And he's like, hey, man, you know, when Claw came last time, you know, what he did killed my family and whatever, we got to bring him in and da-da-da-da. And when T'Challa is not successful in bringing him back, he immediately turns on his... Yeah, he immediately turns on his brand new king because, hey, you didn't go and kill that guy, like, immediately. I think that guy takes up, like... That's one thing I will say, is that guy that sort of gets played off.
I was about to say, that was my other one issue.
That guy flips
how
pretty
quickly
quick.
He turned, and that guy is like his childhood friend.
That guy's his childhood friend. That guy is his, like, his top soldier, whatever you want to call Denai Guerrera's character.
And the border, he's top of, like, border security, like the tribe that lives on the edges of Wakanda and tries to keep people out.
Right. No, but also the Okoye, the Denai Guerrera character, who's, like, played off as being super tight with T'Challa throughout the whole movie. That's his, like, wife or girlfriend or fiance or whatever you want to call him. And at the end of the movie,
yes,
like, he stops his entire rampage because Okoye stands in front of his rhino, and the rhino licks her. And that's the end. That was... I'm not going to say it didn't make sense because obviously the rhino would know her because it's her husband and da-da-da-da, and, you know, what would stop my violence? My wife would stop my violence. I get that. But the way that fight was going up until that point, we're jumping all over the place again, that was something, everything to do with that one male character was a bit off. Because he dropped his loyalty like that. And it was,
like,
and it was jarring. It was jarring how fast. Okay, you didn't kill that guy, like, immediately. Okay, I'm on the other guy's team now because he brought me a body. Like, that was
very jarring. But let's go back to something positive. Can we talk about
the
fight scenes in the movie? We can go through each one if you want.
There's only one that I sort of shit on, and even though I shit on it, I still think it looked cool. And that was the final fight between the Black Panther and the Golden Jaguar.
I think that's, I think that fight scene and with the warring part in general, where it's the border tribe against, like, the king's personal guard kind of thing.
Right.
That one suffered a little bit of, like, off CGI kind of stuff, but it wasn't, like...
Yeah.
I don't want to say it wasn't terrible, but it wasn't, like...
And I do like that they cleared up the loose end. I do like that they cleared up the loose end with the... Like, there's 5 tribes of Wakanda, but one of them wants to go off and be old school and whatever. And that they came back to back up T'Challa and all the girls and the Dora Milaje and make it an even fight. I wouldn't have wanted to see... Here's this guy that has control over the whole country, and T'Challa beats them all by himself. Because that's
kind of thing.
That's bullshit. Because he's
okay. Before we end with characters, finish your thing, and then I want to bring it back.
But I mean, like, but you know, half turns and half doesn't, and everything makes sense because Denai Guerrera's character, she does her big speech about how I'm not loyal to any particular man, I'm loyal to the throne. T'Challa comes back, shows that Killmonger didn't actually kill him, so the transition of power never actually happened. So Dora Milaje, back on his side. The guy, I think they call him Man-Ape, which I really don't want to say because somebody's going to call me racist.
M'Baku is his name. The king of the leader of that tribe that gorillas are kind of their thing.
He's able to be reasoned with because even though they don't get along, and even though they tried to fight at the beginning of the movie and take Wakanda back, you can tell like there's been that gained respect. And at the end, he comes in to back up T'Challa and the girls and the Dora Milaje. So very slowly, through logic, T'Challa builds up his forces back. And basically, the entire time he's fighting the one guy on the Rhino, he's not like trying to fight him to beat him. He's trying to fight him to be like, dude, you need to stop this. Even when, I think even when he's fighting Killmonger, he's in that hero fight that he's sad to be in.
Yes.
Like he doesn't fight with. I don't want to say he doesn't fight with intent, because obviously he's defending his country and he's defending his position as king and all the things that should rightfully be his, and he's defending his lineage and his country and all. So he's fighting with those purposes, but he's not fighting to hurt the other guy. He's not fighting to kill the other guy. He's fighting to stop the other guy. You know, bring them back to the table, metaphorically speaking. And
that fight with T'Challa and Killmonger in the Black Panther suits is also suffers from a little bit of wonky
that's what I was talking about. As soon as they go down, into the cave, as soon as they go down into the vibranium cave, which I'm sorry, this is where I'm going to be a little more picky. Like, having a fight in the vibranium cave between the two of them should be the most metaphorical part of the entire movie. Because everything about Wakanda comes from the vibranium, and it suffers from a little bit of video gameism.
Yes, it's especially with the, like, once they get into the field, that kind of deactivates the vibranium. And since their suits are made of vibranium, it's kind of like this, like, sort of working, but not, and they're exposed a little bit, and blah, 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 kind of thing.
And here's another thing, and this is just a small logic gap that I'm only going to point out because I'm being a dick. Killmonger, because we see Shuri, who's awesome, and she's got the 2 Black Panther suits that she wanted to show him, and they both came out of necklaces. One's a little bit more extravagant than the other one, and he says, well, you know, I'm trying to keep a low profile. So he leaves it, and he takes the other one, and they've got, like, the nanobots that, like, sort of form the whole suit, which visually is absolutely stunning. So she creates 2 for him. She wasn't working for Killmonger at the time. So tell me why he takes one, Killmonger ends up stealing the other one, and a suit that was created for Black Panther ends up actually being a Golden Jaguar suit.
It does have these weird, like...
It's the leopard print. It's the leopard print on the face. It has the leopard
print on the face, yes. That does... I guess it's to, like, you know, since...
It's to distinguish them when you're in the middle of a CG fight. You need to make the 2 characters very distinct. I get it. I like it because it makes sense that the guy taking over from the Black Panther wouldn't be another Black Panther because he's seen as an outsider. He would take on a mantle like the Golden Jaguar, which is fine, and I get that. But then don't make it like you stole it from Shuri's, you know, vat of whatever. Make it that, hey, while you were working with Ulysses Claw, he was able to duplicate the tech that he saw when he was in Wakanda, so he got you a suit of your own. Don't play it off like he took it from Shuri, which would have been another Black Panther suit.
I disagree, because they could have had somebody, you know, make... I don't know. Because it never shows how much time has passed since from when T'Challa goes over the waterfall to when he comes back.
But I don't know when it would have happened though, because when he goes over the waterfall is when all the women get together and they go and try to talk to M'Baku and try to get backup and try to. So it's
like maybe a few hours. It's like maybe like 12 hours, because it's kind of like nightfall or dusk when they have the fight, and then he goes over, and then it's nighttime when Nakia kind of gets them all out and gets them to the other tribe. It's like nighttime at that point,
right.
And when they bring them to where T'Challa is like kind of still in the snow kind of thing, it's definitely nighttime there. And when he when they finally get him, it looks like it's morning, and then clearly the big battle happens in like, you know, the afternoon, and then, you know, it ends at like dusk again kind of thing.
Right.
So, maybe like 12 hours, let's say 12, 13 hours kind of thing.
Right. I get it, and I'm saying, like, it doesn't, I said, I'm going to be like the nitpickiest bastard on that, because it doesn't change the way the movie looks at all. It's just one of those things I was like, how did that happen?
You're like, that's weird, but whatever.
It's kind of weird.
Nothing negative we say about this movie
is going to change the fact that it's awesome.
It's in my top 5. It's in my top 5
of the Marvel movies, or
a lot of people
in general
of the Marvel movies. Of all the Marvel movies, it is in my top 5. A lot of people are saying this is my favorite one. I don't know that I would go like that far. I love the
you
original
have to make a
Avengers.
distinction in the Marvel movies between individualized movies and larger movies. Like, you can't put this in the same category as Avengers, as Civil War, as Infinity War, but you can put it up against, like, Iron Man, Hulk, Thor, Spider-Man, anything like that. I think you have to sort of separate out the way you look at it. But I am going to call you on it right now, though. If this is one of your top 5, what are your top 5?
Let me see. My top 5 is going to be a little weird because a lot of people don't like the movies or think the movies that I like are a little off. Let's see. I'm trying to think of my top 5 now. Because, see, I don't like your category system because my favorite one of the Marvel movies is the first Avengers. Like that one.
Oh, I'm not saying you have to look at it the same way I do. I'm just saying if somebody were to ask me,
well, then
that's how I would look at it.
My first one is the first Avengers movie.
Okay.
My second favorite is Iron Man 1, which I think most people would agree that those two are in the top.
Right.
Third is Captain America Winter Soldier.
Okay.
Fourth is this movie's Black Panther. And fifth is I really liked Spider-Man Homecoming.
Really? Okay.
I liked it because it was smaller in scale to the other movies, and there was a lot of like humor and stuff in it, and I felt it was a lot of people hold the I'm going on a side tangent. A lot of people hold the original Spider-Man, like the one with Tobey Maguire, as like the best Spider-Man movie, like the first one he did.
This is the first Spider-Man movie I have ever given a shit about. How's that for a blanket statement?
A lot of people, when it comes to Spider-Man, I've heard, and this is the best I've heard to describe it, is that out of the 3 Spider-Men that we have, Andrew Garfield is the best Spider-Man, but not the best Peter Parker. Is a good Spider-Man, but not a good Peter Parker.
Okay.
Because Peter Parker is supposed to be this nerd. Tobey Maguire is a really good Peter Parker, and not as strong as Spider-Man. I think the guy that they got, what's his name, Tom Holland?
Yeah.
Yeah, is a combination of those two things. I think he's a good Spider-Man and a good Peter Parker.
I think you have the same sort of debate when you talk about who's a good Batman, who's a good Bruce Wayne.
Yes.
Because, I'm sorry, like, as much as they're dickbags, like, Val Kilmer or George Clooney can make a good, stuck-up, cocky, billionaire Bruce Wayne, but don't make them be Batman, because that's fucked.
Yes, I agree with that.
I'm just looking across my shelf right now. If I was gonna say my top 5, because I haven't really done this, and this won't be in any particular order, but first Iron Man, second, I'm going to say second Captain America, only because it ties in most strongly with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which I'm a huge fan of. So that's sort of an honorable mention, but I'm going to throw it on there. So Iron Man 1, Captain America 2, First Avengers. No, not First Avengers. Civil War, Doctor Strange, and this. So I'm breaking my own category. I'm breaking my own category rule.
Yeah. I would argue Doctor Strange, I still liked it, but it wasn't my favorite one, but...
Yeah. I think the way that they're going to tie him in with Thor and with the Guardians after, like, we got Infinity War coming up now, whatever the second half of Infinity War is next year, what they're saying is for the phase after that, the team-up isn't necessarily going to be like all of the Avengers, all of the Guardians, all of the whatever. Supposedly the more cosmic-based heroes are all going to be kind of together, so you're going to get like the Guardians and Thor and Loki and Doctor Strange teaming up as opposed to like the traditional Avengers, which I think is kind of cool. Doctor Strange, I love Benedict Cumberbatch as Doctor Strange. I loved him in Sherlock. I loved him in Imitation Game. I just think he plays like the cocky asshole that still has a sense of purpose.
Yes.
Perfectly. And the fact that, like, let's be real, basically, he beat Dormammu by being a pain in the ass. And I can respect that, surprisingly enough.
Well, on a side note, when it comes to Black Panther, let's see. In the first weekend, in the first couple days it's been out, it has grossed worldwide, U.S. and the other territories combined, $361 million.
That's
in the last 4 days.
That's not too shabby.
15th grossing overall.
That is a fair chunk of change. That is a fair chunk of change.
And, you know, it's the first weekend. Clearly, people are going to go back again and again to see it.
I'm going to go watch it.
If you do not watch Marvel movies, that's fine.
Still go watch this.
Still go watch this. If you love Marvel movies, then why the fuck haven't you seen this already? And it's so good because the last couple of Marvel movies have been like, that was pretty good. I mean, I liked Spider-Man more than other people did, and you liked Doctor Strange more than other people did.
Spider-Man, I feel like you have to go. I mean, first of all, like, even though Marvel did the creative on it, you got to know that it is ultimately a Sony production with Marvel, so it's going to feel different. Second of all, it's a kid's story. So it's gonna be lighter. And it's Spider-Man. So it's gonna be lighter. I gave it a pass on that. I still don't. It's a good movie. I like Michael Keaton as the Vulture. That was fucking amazing. But I can't bring myself to even put it in my top 10, honestly. Like, it's fun. I have it. I've watched it a bunch. But, like, I mean...
Well, I'm somebody that really likes the first Captain America movie when a lot of people didn't. A lot of people felt the first Captain America and the first Thor movies were, like, a little too stiff. Like, a little, like...
Oh, the Thor movies were stiff. Like, the way they turned Thor around in Ragnarok was just what they needed.
It was a little too, like, I can understand the argument that Thor especially, but also the first Captain America are, like, a little too... generic-y, like, here's your good guy, and here's your bad guy, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest. Nothing, I know it's canon, by the way, guys, comic book-wise, but still, nothing is lazier writing when it comes to your bad guy than let's just fucking make him a Nazi. That's, like, the quickest way to make somebody a bad guy, and this one's a Nazi, and that's all you need to fucking know about him. He's a Nazi.
Yep.
I'm just saying, Nazis are a thing that in movies and video games that if you don't want your protagonist or your audience you want them to immediately identify him as the bad guy and not to feel bad at all about mowing them down and killing all of them, Nazis.
And then, just turn around and give him a red skull at the end of the movie. It's fine.
Exactly.
You know this about me because we reviewed Civil War. I don't like Captain America, the character, in general. I think he can go suck a dick. The reason I like Winter Soldier is Winter Soldier, who supposedly, in canon, and you can let me know if this is true or not, becomes Captain America, eventually.
Yes.
Which I can't wait for. But we might have a diversion from that plan. If I can actually loop this all back to talking about Black Panther, let's talk about the post-credit scenes.
Okay.
Did you see both of them?
Yes, I saw both of them. First mid-credit scene is
the mid-credit scene is the speech at the
UN.
At the UN. Basically, he's continuing the speech that his dad was trying to give during Civil War, which I thought was a really nice touch. The way he presented himself, the way he spoke, the theme of what he was trying to say, the theme of what his dad was trying to say.
Even down to the garb that he's wearing.
Yes. But, I don't, like, it was very impactful. It was very sort of like tie up all the loose ends, give us hope for the future type thing. Apparently the reason that became a post-credit scene is because they wanted the actual end of the movie to be, Shuri and all the street kids in the basketball court, like, looking at the spaceship and, like, hey, here's how we're going to introduce ourselves to the world. We're going to outreach in places that don't get any outreach. Like, he's going to build his outreach center in the building where, you know, his uncle was killed by his dad, which is a little bit of weird symbolism, but it's sort of like we're going to start our community support, like, from the ground up. And it's a great feeling little moment. And Shuri, big smile on her face. Hey, look, you know, I'm the tech girl. Let me show you all. Hey, kids, come on over. Let me show you all my toys. Trust me, it's not a windowless van. You're going to be fine. But it's a cool little moment. And they wanted to end on that, not on something super, you know, like we said before, not on something super stiff, like a UN scene. So they bumped that to a post-credit scene. But
I would also argue that ending the movie if they ended the movie with the United Nations talk, other than the sarcasm and everything, it comes off a little to me like Iron Man 1 and Tony Stark in front of all the news reporters being like, I am Iron Man kind of thing.
Apparently that was the intention. Apparently that was like fully the intention.
Well,
sort of the whole, like, to have the one like asshole white guy in the crowd say, "Oh my God, you know, third world country, what is Wakanda ever going to offer to us?" And to just have him smile and then have the scene cut. It's fully intended to mimic that.
Yes.
But I think that would be kind of cool though, to like have the question, have him just sort of smirk, and then immediately cut to the credits, immediately cut to some like kick-ass like credits music or whatever. And have that same punch that the Iron Man 1 did. I think that would... Because if that had been the end of the movie...
I disagree with that because T'Challa is a different character than Tony Stark. Tony Stark, like, loves and basks in the attention and everything, whereas T'Challa is more purposeful and more regal about it. And
they do, and I don't mean this in a bad way, they do give him his own swagger.
Yes. But it's totally different than Tony's, and I think it would have come off very Tony Stark, and I wouldn't have been super down for that. But any other thoughts about it before I move on to the end credit scene? That doesn't neither of the credit. Well, they don't. It's not like a prelude to the next movie kind of thing.
Yeah, it might be
a little bit, but not like a lot of other ones have.
Yeah. Go ahead. Move on to the final one.
Post-credit scene is a bunch of kids standing over somebody, and then they run out of a hut. And is it Siri that's at the village?
Sure, yeah, it is Shuri, because she's the one with all the tech.
It is Shuri?
She's the one that apparently, like, used her tech,
healed him
cleaned out his brain first of all. But if you've seen the obviously,
by the way, Bucky comes out of the hut with all the kids after all the kids run off from staring at him. And I mean, they alluded to this earlier in the movie when they brought Ross in to
the one line that I love.
You brought me
another broken white boy to fix.
Exactly, you brought me another
I'm sorry, I can't even be mad at that. That's fucking amazing. It made me smile. And actually, you know what? It kind of shoots in the foot my whole theory of, like, Everett Ross being the first one that they sort of let into Wakanda without, you know.
Well, and I mean, they already showed that at the end of Civil War, that they brought Bucky to Wakanda.
Yeah, no, that is true, but I didn't think about that until just now.
It's Steve Rogers and T'Challa after they freeze Bucky.
Yep.
Standing on that thing, and they say,
everybody's going to come for you. Please let them try.
You'll put your country in danger if they know he's here. And he says, let them come.
And then you see the big statue of the tiger for the Panther.
The Panther.
The tiger, the golden tiger that's black.
Yeah, the golden leopard.
Oh my god. I'm going to hell a little bit. But no, the thing that's been focused on in basically every review that I've seen so far is all the kids calling Bucky White Wolf.
Yes.
Which is apparently like a sidekick character to Black Panther in the Black Panther comics.
I am not sure about that, but I will look it up right now.
And see, on the one hand, I'd be totally intrigued by that, because the little bit that I've seen, and once again, I do encourage anybody that's a huge, like, Marvel, DC, Walking Dead type fan, go check out Emergency Awesome. That's where I get all my information from. But supposedly, the original White Wolf character was a white kid that was adopted by T'Chaka when T'Challa was still a kid, and they were brought up as sort of like stepbrothers. And if they want to co-opt that mantle and use it for Bucky, that's cool in one sense, because we all know, if you've seen the previews for Infinity War, that he's got a new vibranium arm. The new vibranium arm looks like musculature, which I think is rather weird, because it's not muscle, so I don't know what the hell that's about. So you got this guy with one full vibranium arm going to team up with, Black Panther, who's an entirely vibraniumed up guy. It would be cool. It would be cool to see him partnered up with somebody other than Captain America, because personally I don't like Captain America. But if you want to make Bucky,
I do.
But if you want to make Bucky sort of like the adopted son of Wakanda, I think that could be a really cool story. And if he's going to take this White Wolf,
that's kind of White Wolf's background, from what I'm just a cursory, quick look in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Because up to this point, I've been hanging my hat on the fact that eventually Captain America dies and Bucky becomes the new Captain America. But if you want to sort of transplant him...
You know what they're probably going to do instead? Because there's actually two people in the Marvel Cinematic Universe right now that in the comics become Captain America at some point. There's Bucky. Bucky becomes Captain America at some point.
Are you going to say Falcon?
And Falcon.
I'd totally be down for Falcon being
Captain America.
I can't think of the actor that plays Falcon, but I like his character too. Like, to the point where he even has a cameo in Ant-Man.
Mm-hmm.
He calls him Tic Tac.
That is the best cameo, by the way. We're now getting way off of Black Panther. I don't want to do that, because I don't want to take away from this movie anymore. No. Because fucking goats, if you've made it this far, just go fucking see the movie.
Go fucking see the movie. The one last thing, wait, before we go totally off track, the one element that I do really like is the ceremonial challenge thing that they did on the mountainside. And,
yes.
And how, for the king to be challenged, he has to drink, like, the heart-shaped herb to take all the Black Panther powers away.
He has to drink something that strips him of the Black Panther powers to make it,
to make it a human-on-human fight. Which I like, because, like I say, what we said at the beginning of this video, you got to balance out all this tech and all this advancement with some tradition. So it's like, yeah, I fight with all this tech and all this additional like stuff to go out there and do all the right thing, but I have to have the most basest of combat skills and defense skills and whatever to do it. And the fact that they do it in that, and I was saying this to my friend that was at the movie with me, and she didn't really get what I was trying to say, but it's cool that they do that fight in that little pool, because that would be such a pain in the ass to fight in, because the water was only about a foot deep, and it would be like just enough to make you drag your feet and make it like a little bit awkward to position yourself. I think those were done really, really well, first of all. It was a really cool way to introduce the M'Baku character, because in the beginning, you want to lay out what the traditions kind of are, and if the traditions are to open it up to a challenge, you have to have somebody do that so that we as the audience know how that goes, so that when Killmonger does it later on, we know that this is a tradition that already exists. Also, it introduces M'Baku, so you have that whole roundabout story of, hey, we earned each other's respect, and now we need your help, and he helps them win the fight at the end of the day. But I think it's a really cool, like, set the table type moment, and I think, what's his name? Forrest Whitaker's character as sort of like the de facto, like, shaman type character of their culture. He does a great job, because Forrest Whitaker is always a little off in movies.
Yes.
So to have him be like sort of the super spiritual, like elder type character, like fit him down to the ground. The whole friggin' okay, let's go back. You know, we talk about Shuri and Denai Guerrera's character and Chadwick Boseman and all. Top to bottom, the entire cast of this movie is fucking great. And we've already gushed on Michael B. Jordan's Killmonger character and how multidimensional it was, but like realistically, there's not a single casting choice that they made here, like of the characters that mattered, that was amiss.
And then there was silence. Sorry.
Way to make it awkward.
I'm still reading up on the White Wolf character.
Okay, what have you found?
Essentially, his Marvel background is when his parents die in a plane crash, and he kind of ends up in Wakanda, and the king of Wakanda, T'Chaka, at the time, kind of adopts him, and he lives within the royal family, and then when T'Challa is born, he kind of realizes that he's not going to be king of Wakanda. And, everybody in Wakanda kind of hates him because, he's an outsider and everything. So, then when T'Challa is born, he realizes he's not going to be king and everything, and he grows really jealous of him and
So he's Wakanda's Loki.
Yes.
There you go. See, now I really hope they flush that out. I don't think they're going to.
Well, I mean, they would have had to be like, and by the way, you had an older brother that we didn't talk about.
Yeah. Well, no, but if they want to give that, without making him a brother, just to have, Bucky, because Bucky is friends with Captain America. Captain America is a guy who's earned the respect of Black Panther. Black Panther probably on some level feels bad because he, accused Bucky of killing his dad, which wasn't true. So there's probably a little bit of loyalty between those three guys. So it wouldn't be when he was a child, but to have him sort of later.
Well, and Bucky can't exactly go running around in public since he was, a mercenary / assassin for the Russians.
This is true. This is true. But no, I'm just saying, they wouldn't have to translate that story exactly, but to say, not because he was a child and he was helpless and whatever, but out of respect for him to become, an honorary Wakandan or, an adopted son of Wakanda as an adult and just be somebody that has a loyalty and a respect with them and sort of is able to, not be Wakandan, but exist sort of within them, be somebody that the children are familiar with enough that they can go wake him up in his tent and they can go play in the water like they did in the post-credit scene or whatever. I think they could sort of take that story and sort of co-opt it and give that mantle to Bucky, and I don't think it's that much of a stretch. And I don't think it's a difference
and he doesn't have a very, deep history within the Black Panther universe, so I feel like with characters like that, there's a lot more wiggle room. If you watch Arrow in the DC universe, Felicity Smoke is a very minor character in the universe. Her character within the Arrow universe basically is very, other than the fact that here's Felicity Smoke and she's a tech person, that's about all they have in common. Yeah. But she doesn't have much of a background anyway, so the less kind of entrenched in comic book lore a character has, the more okay a lot of people feel with, having a different direction with them.
Fair. But I mean, even if it was something super important, I don't think the slight difference between what you just read up on, right now, and what I'm talking about, it would be different, but I don't think it's a difference that matters. Even if he was a more important character, even if he was, right in there in the family type of thing, or however you want to say it, I don't think how he got there and how he arrived there and when he arrived there would change more than just the idea of here's this guy that was an outsider that for whatever reason we totally decided to embrace anyway. He wasn't born here. We have to establish that he's a little bit different somehow. We give him the mantle of the White Wolf instead of the Black Panther. I mean, I think that's a little on the nose if we're trying to be sort of like politically sensitive, but I think it's something you could totally do, and I think it's just it's got more dimension to it and got more potential for character growth than here's Captain America's friend who's occasionally fucked in the head and occasionally kills people, but sometimes we think he's a nice guy.
Yeah. With that, I don't think I have any more to say about it. We've talked for almost the length of the movie.
This is actually, that is one thing I was going to say. I was going to comment on that, give you one little piece of trivia, and then we can talk a little bit more about Infinity War, and then we'll be done. Little tiny bit of trivia for you. The guy in Black Panther that plays young T'Chaka in like the flashbacks,
yes,
is the son of the guy that plays old T'Chaka.
That is interesting.
Little side note. Second of all, when you went and saw the movie last night, did it feel like 2.5 hours?
No.
Because I went to see it at 7:30, walked out of the theater thinking it was 9 o'clock, looked down and saw that it was 5 after 10, and was like, oh fuck. So, great job on Marvel proving that they can do a longer movie and make it not feel long.
Yes.
Gives me a lot of hope for Infinity War. Now, here's where we switch gears a little bit. Infinity War is the next big team-up, shall we say, or next big outing by Marvel. What do you want to see most in Infinity War? Like, what are you looking forward to seeing the most?
I don't really know, because I've only, when it comes to Marvel movies nowadays, and, you know, a lot of big movies like Star Wars and all of that, I tend to not, I watch whatever the first trailer is that comes out, I watch that trailer, and then I actively avoid everything else. I actively avoid, like, interviews with the cast, I actively avoid, you know, second and third trailers.
Right. I'm just saying, like, based on everything that Marvel has given us so far, and based on basically everybody's going in the same bucket for this movie, and we're finally going to see them fighting Thanos, and that's basically all we really need to know at this point. What are you looking like based on that alone? What are you looking forward to most?
I'm looking forward to, hopefully, and this is going to come off negative, so sorry. I'm looking forward to how, because they're going to have so many characters in this, how they shove all these characters in without making it seem like, without giving them like 30 seconds and then there you go kind of thing.
I get it, yeah. Well, basically, from what I've seen in the trailers so far, there seems to be, and this is all like, seems to be, and this is all depending on how they cut trailers and whatever, it seems to me like basically there's 3 sort of groups, so I get this feeling like, you know, the movie's going to follow these 3 different groups. Like I say, you've kind of got the space group, which realistically is Thor, Loki,
Guardians,
the Guardians, the rest of Asgard. So maybe they keep it. I hope they keep Valkyrie because she's badass too.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got them kind of floating around. At the end of Ragnarok, you kind of see them being confronted with Thanos' ship.
Yeah.
So you got that. So you got sort of like the space contingent. It looks to me like, just by looking at that first trailer, you've got Wakanda, which is basically all the Wakandans, T'Challa, all of them that we just saw in this movie, with the additions of Captain America, because in the first main trailer, one of the first things you see T'Challa say is, "Let's get this man a shield." Comes out all like Captain America beard Jones there. So you've got his, I guess you could say his contingent. You've got Captain America, you've got Bucky, you've probably got Falcon, you
definitely have Falcon and Hawkeye, and because Captain America
probably Scarlet Witch, probably Ant-Man as well. Like, all the people that ended up on the raft, right?
Yes, because, Cap busts them all out of jail.
Yeah, and you gotta figure that he's tight with Wakanda. They would have to explain away. The only thing I could say is if that whole half of the Avengers has been hiding with the help of T'Challa, you gotta do some creative footwork and explain why they weren't helping T'Challa in Black Panther.
I assume the reason why is because, they went off and Bucky's the only one that needed to stay in Wakanda because he was frozen. So.
But so they're in Wakanda, and then I think in sort of, I'm assuming it's the States. You've got Tony Stark,
Vision,
Stark, Vision, Banner, because he crashes into the Sanctum, Doctor Strange, Spider-Man. So I don't think it's a matter of let's find like 30 individual characters. I think it's basically going to be we all see some shit's going down. The people in the States are going to like cluster up. The people in Wakanda that have already kind of established a connection there are going to all partner up. I mean, you're going to have one team in Wakanda that probably has, like we said before, Okoye and Black Widow. So I don't think this theory of, or not this theory, but this trend of like you said, all these badass female characters definitely being up in the mix is going to change anytime soon. I mean, you look at
I don't think so.
I mean, you look at the Guardians and like the space contingent. Just there alone, you've got what the hell's her name? Gamora, Nebula. If she's still with Thor, you've got Valkyrie. I think the smallest group is actually going to be the group with Tony. But I mean, even then, we know that War Machine is back. So I'm guessing his entire Iron Man suit is basically going to be a prosthetic, seeing as he's paralyzed. So you got him along with Iron Man, Spider-Man, who's probably going to be Iron Spider by that point. And then Hulk, who's just Hulk, and Doctor Strange, who brings the cosmic element. What I want to see, and it has nothing to do with the actual flow of the movie, and I've said this forever, there has to be a scripted scene of a conversation between Iron Man, Star-Lord, and Doctor Strange. Because they're the three cockiest, most arrogant people in the whole fucking movie, and I want them... I don't even care what happens. There just has to be some on-screen time that's just those three guys. And that's what I want the comic bit to be. I would love to see a little bit of a skirmish between Drax and Hulk, because I think that would be fun. Any of the females fighting would be fun, just because I'm a guy and I gotta be typical sometimes. But realistically, as far as the actual flow of the movie goes, we still don't have the Soul Gem. That's the other thing to come out of Black Panther. We still don't have the Soul Gem, so it's going to be a case of, do they find it in this movie? Do they find it when they do the Captain Marvel movie? I really hope they don't find it when they do Ant-Man and the Wasp, because that's a bit lame. Do they find it in the fourth Avengers movie, or do they find it somewhere else? I think the cool thing would have been...
My guess would be in the Captain Marvel movie, but if I were to just take a guess. It really would have been cool
for them to reveal in Black Panther that the meteorite that hit Earth that was made of vibranium, that the core of that meteorite was the Soul Gem. Because there's so much of a spiritual element that we didn't talk about a whole bunch in this review, but there's a very heavy spiritual element to the Black Panther movie, so I think it would have been really cool to just sort of reveal that the center of that vibranium comet was the Soul Gem, but they didn't go that way.
That would have been interesting. Like I said, I've just always assumed it's going to be in the fucking Captain Marvel movie. They could also, and I don't know how I would feel about this, it'd be kind of a throwaway kind of thing. They can already assume that Thanos has it for whatever reason. I mean, he's been actively looking for them, but...
Yeah.
But I could see them doing that if they don't.
I really don't want
put
them
it in
to.
the Captain Marvel.
I really don't want them to, because every time, and I'm gonna sound like I'm plugging the guy once again because I am. Watching Emergency Awesome, there's been a lot of little interview clips from guys like Kevin Feige and Robert Downey Jr. whatever, and they all refer to Infinity War, because remember originally it was supposed to be Infinity War Chapter 1 and then Infinity War Chapter 2. And then they decided not to do that, so right now they're calling the other one just Avengers 4, which is lame.
Mm-hmm.
But they always said the first, Infinity War Chapter 1 is all about the heist, so it's the story of the collection of the gems. So to start that story with him already having one I'm not saying it would necessarily be bad, but it would sort of deflate it right at the start. And I don't know
That's what I'm saying.
I don't know how you would pick that back up. Anyway, that's a minor thing. I hope that I hope that Thanos himself looks a bit better than he does in the trailers. Because in the trailers, and I have to agree with a lot of people that basically say he looks like purple Homer Simpson. Because he just looks like a giant dude with a big chin that happens to be purple. I hope there's some more panache.
No, they haven't shown him that much. So.
Well, no, they haven't. But it's like what's a good example? If you watch the old Terminator movies, for the first 3 movies they talk about Judgment Day, but they talk about Judgment Day so much that when they actually show Judgment Day, there's no way for it to be as spectacular as what you thought it was going to be. We've been waiting on Thanos for years. We've seen his hand here and there, we've seen his face here and there when he's yelling at somebody. But, to actually see him just, taking a fucking walk around and trying to get shit done, I want it to be more than what I'm expecting, and that's a little bit of a question mark in my head right now. I mean, if he's just a big dude, I'm not gonna lie, that's just gonna be okay, he's a big dude, somebody knock him down.
That is all I have.
That is all I have. And we made a hell of a conversation out of this. We have talked the living shit out of this, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Anyways, do we want to let people know what this might be turning into?
Yeah, I'll, so I am, trying to set this up as its own individual, podcast. I'm trying to figure out all the, I don't want to use, a hosting site like SoundCloud or something like that, because I don't like SoundCloud's, app design. So I'm trying to work all of that out, and this may be its own podcast with just me and Spaz, or me and whoever, once I get all the kinks worked out. And we'll just talk about not just Marvel movies, but movies in general. And yeah, I'm trying to figure all that out. But for now, it'll end up on Spaz's YouTube
I was gonna
channel.
say, for now, it's gonna live here. Definitely, at this point, we pretty much have to. We're gonna review Infinity War.
Yes.
Depending on how long it is, it might be a case of we have to see it more than once before we review it. It might not be an opening weekend thing. I'm just admitting that on my behalf. The fact is, for those of us up here in Canada, we know that tomorrow I should say today, is Family Day, so I've got a day off, so that hence I was able to do this. Might not be the case when Infinity War comes out, but there will be a review from myself and Kristen at some point after it does come out. Anyways,
yes.
Do you want to tell them where they can find you in the meantime?
In the meantime, you can, I have a YouTube channel there, but don't even bother with that. You can find me on Twitter, Black Cat Feline. You can find me on Instagram, Black Cat Feline. That's just mostly pictures of me at work. And, yeah.
Alright, and you guys know
and you can find me on this lovely channel.
Yeah, you can.
More often than not.
Usually we're talking about wrestling. Oh, for the wrestling fans out there, we will be doing our preview for the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view. That will be coming out. That will be recorded this coming Friday, probably uploaded by Saturday. We will be doing the pay-per-view pick'em. There will be bonus questions and other stuff that I'm going to throw in, so if you want to get those bonus points, you actually have to stick it out through the whole video. Sorry about that. But anyways, you guys know where to find me, or you wouldn't be here. I can't really do my closing shtick because it has to do with me as a wrestling content creator. So I will say...
And this isn't a wrestling content.
And this isn't wrestling content. So I've been Spaz, she's been Kristen, and
that's it.
And that's it. It feels really weird because I have no closing.
We need to come up with a closing.
Are we the MCU reality check?
No. But we need to come up with a closing.
Alright, if you've made it this far, tell us what we should call this shit down in the box below. I'll talk to you guys later.
Don't shine if you're a freak like me.